Hi, it's Rod from VMN here. Tonight I just wanted to talk a little bit about setting up GST. So usually if we just go to settings, accounting, and we have a couple of things here. Fiscal localization. By default, an Australian business should have this package already deployed in apps, so you just want to make sure that you have the Australian fiscal localization set up. And then when you come down to GST, one of the things that everyone forgets is to set this up. It depends whether you quote sales tax inclusive pricing or tax or base price plus GST. Depends on what you have set here, and also the same on purchasing. Do you normally default to cost plus GST on your purchase orders and bills? And then what's your tax return periodicity? Quarterly, when do you want a reminder? 7 days. And what are your miscellaneous operations? Also, we want to have a look at this one here. By default, Odoo comes configured to be use accrual based GST, and most businesses that we've spoken to report GST on a cash basis, and Odoo needs a little bit more configuring to do. So if you turn this on, there's a couple more things that are cash basis journal and where the money is. What account do you put it in? So in our case, we're an e-commerce business, so all our receipts from our sales are typically received on a cash basis. So on money coming in, it doesn't matter whether we're accrual or cash based on our GST. So really, for an e-commerce business, it only affects purchasing. Do you want to recognize your do you want to recognize your costs and the GST that you get a refund for when you receive the bill or when you actually pay the bill? Now, you might like to have a conversation with your accountant about that, but to change it, you need to get approval from the ATO, Australian Tax Office. So we'll leave that one there for you. And once you set that up, we're just going to discard our settings here. And we're going to go through to accounting. And I want to just have a look at chart of accounts. Why can't I see chart of account? I'm blind. I'm in the wrong spot. Chart of accounts. And if we just search for GST, you'll see that there are a number of accounts here, but typically there's GST collected and GST paid, and that's where your GST goes into. And on an accrual basis, it'll go in there at the time an invoice is raised or a bill is raised, and GST clearing, GST account are also factored into the BAS report. But if we are going to do cash-based GST, what you have to do, and I've got another business here, we need to add these transition accounts. The easiest way to do that is actually select the ones that are already there and copy them so they come across with their the same thing. So we need to add these, because what will happen now is GST Odoo will any time a bill is received, anytime an invoice is given to a customer, then the GST will go into this account here, cash collected, and then when your BAS return is done, it'll or when it is paid, the value will move from cash collected transition account to GST collected, and that becomes where your liability is. So this here is held in a liability account until such times as the liability actually crystallizes, which is when you receive the cash. And the same down here, cash paid on a bill. So when you receive a bill from your supplier, the GST will move into the cash paid transition account, and when that bill's paid, it'll move into GST paid on a cash basis. So that's the chart of accounts that we need to set up. And then we need to look at changing how GST is set up. And the first thing I'm going to suggest that you do here is search for TPAR, because chances are a lot of these, none of these GST codes will apply to you because you're not dealing with contractors. And what we suggest that you do then is archive them to get them out of the road. And we've already done that, so what we can do is filter by active, and then we might save a favorite, save the current search as the default filter. Now that'll mean that when you come into here again, they'll be what's active, so you've got a much smaller list to look at. And then we've got to set these accounts up. So here's 10% on sales. So this is adding, if you bill for $100 and then GST is added on here, in this case here, so that'd be $110 once GST is added on, whereas 10% Inc. will be where you actually sell $110 and account for that $10 as a percentage of your 1/11th of your sales. But what we have to do is go into these transactions, and you can see here that everything is set up to go to report on the BAS report, and we have a GST cash collected or GST collected accounts there, and over on advanced options here, normal case is you'd be based on invoice, but here we're based on payment. So what that means then, we need to select this transition account on the code. So we need to go through these codes and just make sure that they're set, depending whether they're a purchase invoice, a purchase or a sales GST code. So once that's all set up, then you're pretty much right to go. There you have it. That's briefly how you need to set up GST or cash-based situation for your business once you when you are setting up your accounting in Odoo.